Hey guys, you guys know that Simplicity dropped their summer patterns. And of course, some are similar. And you guys know that I'm going to give you those details. So to keep this video short, sweet, and to the point, let's go ahead and get into it. Hey everyone, I'm Rochelle, and I'm the girl that gives you all the pattern sales, which I haven't been doing that, let's just be honest, so long and behind the scenes of any and everything in between. In today's video, we are going to be talking about the new Simplicity summer drop that just dropped as of June 10th, Tuesday, June 10th. Now, when you're seeing it, it may be the next day, but who cares? It dropped June 10th. All right, so without further ado, just to let you know that Simplicity patterns are running 3128 to 3158. Just so you know, I'm not going to be covering any home decor patterns, apron patterns, any type of costume patterns, kids patterns, baby patterns, accessory patterns. I am not going to be covering that. I'm just strictly keeping it to the adult garments, okay? So without further ado, to keep this video short, sweet, and to the point, let's go ahead and get into the first pattern, being Simplicity 3128. All right, so Simplicity 3128, all of these are Simplicity, so I'm just going to say the number from here on out. The first one is 3128, which is the Mrs. dress in 2 lengths. This is a Mimi G pattern, so it's a fitted dress in mini or midi length. It has gathered bust ties enclosed into a neckline casing, front button opening, front and back darts, and shoulder straps. So some of the suggestive fabrics for this one is chambray cotton blends, gabardine, lightweight denim, linen blends, just to name a few. You will need some lightweight fusible interfacing. This is an easy to sew pattern. And just so you know that they started doing PDF and paper patterns, so you have that option as well. Just note that if you're going to get paper patterns, I know Simplicity had kind of like a slight delay on shipping during Memorial Day, so you might have to wait. All right, so let's get back into it. Let's talk about the sizing, pattern sizing. So it's 2 envelopes. The first one is 8 to 16, and the second one is 18 to 24. Let's talk fabrics, which we already told you the fabrics, but let's talk notions. So in terms of notion, you will need 5/8 inch button. You need 8 of those for view A and 10 of them for view B because it's going down the front. All right. But this is considered an easy to sew pattern. Once again, it's 3128. Moving over to the next pattern is 3129. And 3129 is a Mrs. dress with petite lines. So this is a fitted tank dress. It has a scoop neckline, high-low hem, tiered gathered skirt, and an invisible zipper closure. Now, view C features a contrast. You could contrast it and color block it, same thing. This is an easy to sew. In terms of sizing, it's 2 pattern envelopes, 4 to 12 on the first one and 14 to 22 on the second pattern envelope. Let's talk fabrics and notions. So in terms of fabric, you can use chambray, cotton blends, or lawn, just to name a few. View B, you can use vertical stripes if you choose to. You will need some lightweight fusible interfacing. And then when it comes to notions, the only notion you're going to need for view A, B, or C is a 22-inch invisible zipper. Guess what? That's it. All right. Now, this pattern can be, you can save your coins if you decide to, and you can use a couple of patterns and pretty much hack them and put them together. So the first pattern that I'm going to tell you, you can use the bodice of is 8281. Now that dress is basically a simple bodice that you can use for that and just use the or you could hack it, take the bottom portion of the skirt, which is just basically some rectangle tiers, and just add whatever length you want for the tiers. You can save you some money for that as well. But what 3121 is basically a bodice top, and you just add some tiers to the bottom. You can use whatever pattern you want and just add those tiers. All right. But anyway, and at any rate, it's 3129. Let's move over to the next one, 3130. 3130. So 3130 is a Mrs. Collared dress in 3 different lengths. It does remind me of a pattern that I actually did a sew along for not too long ago. But this one is a very loose fitting pullover dress. It has drop shoulders, polo collar, concealed front, snap closure, and a side seam pockets. Now view C is more so a high-low hem, side slits, and a wide hem facing for that one. It is an average to sew pattern. In terms of sizing for this pattern, is 2 pattern envelopes, 6 to 14 on the first one and 16 to 24 on the second pattern envelope. Let's talk fabrics and notions. So in terms of fabric, you can use chambray, linen blend, poplin, just to name a few. You will need some lightweight fusible interfacing. And then in terms of the notion, the only thing that you're going to need is 3 5/8 inch sew in snaps. So sew in snaps is different. You should have sew in snap that you're going to hand sew in instead of the ones that you use a tool to put on, but you can use whatever you want. Now, I did mention that this reminds me of a pattern that I have actually a sew along for. It is Simplicity 9744. Now, however, this is not the exact same pattern, but I will say, because I see that placket and it looks like it has kind of like an inverted pleat on 3130, I went with this pattern as if you wanted to save some coins and try that pattern. You could definitely do that as well. But once again, it is 3130. Moving over to the next pattern is 3131. And this one is a Mrs. and woman dress in 3 lengths. Now this one to me, it just seemed like a basic dress, okay? But it is a fitted dress. It has a lined bodice, pleated skirt, straps with back button details, and an invisible zipper closure. The dress comes in many multiple lengths, mini, midi, or ankle lengths. It's up to you. View B dress has a contrast at the bodice, so you could color block it if you choose to. This is an average to sew pattern. In terms of sizing for the pattern, it's 2 pattern envelopes, 10 to 18 on the first one, and then 20W to 28W on the second pattern envelope. Let's talk fabrics and notions. So in terms of fabric, you can use cotton blends, linen, poplin, just to name a few there. View C, you can use 1-inch vertical striped fabric. You will need some lining fabric. They suggest cotton blends for the lining or lining fabric. I feel like if you use cotton, please use cotton as your lining, okay? In most cases, all right? You will need some lightweight fusible interfacing. In terms of the notions, for all views, you're going to need a 14-inch invisible zipper. If you are using the woman sizes, which will be that 20W to 28W, you need to increase that zipper to 16-inch invisible zipper. In addition, you will need 2 half-inch buttons for this pattern as well. Now, this pattern also reminds me of a VikiSews pattern, and that VikiSews pattern is the Buffy dress. Now, I shared this pattern way back when I did the ABCs. Yeah, we spent a lot. I'll put that video up here so you're able to see it. I did a massive pattern haul when they had like the patterns were, I can't even remember the price of the patterns, but the price of the patterns was good. And then they had the pattern hacking. And I picked up this one just strictly for the pattern hacking. You could do the exact same thing with this one, save you a couple of coins. I'm just saying. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the next pattern, because I know y'all gonna be like, Rochelle's favorite word is just saying, but let's go ahead and get over to the next pattern, 3132. So 3132 is a Mrs. and woman's dress in 2 lengths with petite lines. I guess they're bringing petite patterns back, but we shall see. But this one is a sleeveless bubble dress. It has turtleneck or mock neck option, contrast gathered skirt, and invisible zipper closure. Now view A has ruffled details at the hem. And then, I like view B, to be honest with you. Let's go over the pattern envelopes. It's 2 pattern envelopes. It's 10 through 18 on the first one and 20W to 28W on that second pattern envelope. Let's talk fabrics and notions. So in terms of fabric, you're going to need some knit fabric. Cotton knit, ITY jersey, just to name a few. And that's for either view A or view B. That's for the top portion of it. And then the bottom portion, you could use any type of woven fabric, which could be cotton blends, poplin, just to name a few there. Now, in terms of notions for either view A or B, you're going to need some elastic. And you will also need a 24-inch invisible zipper. Okay? For view A, that's if you're doing the mister sizes. If you are doing the plus sizes, you will need a 24-inch zipper. For the plus sizes, 22-inch zipper if you are doing the regular sizes, okay? If you are doing view B, you're going to need a 28-inch zipper, period, all right? Once again, this pattern is 3132. Now, this pattern does remind me of a way that you can hack it, and of course, you know, I'm a girl that's going to tell you to save your coins. If you want to save your coins, this is how you can do it. The top bodice portion reminds me of Simplicity 9757. You could take that pattern and cut it off at the waist, and then add the new McCall's pattern, which is McCall's 8583 to the bottom. Save you some coins because I'm pretty sure you already picked up both patterns, okay? And you can hack it and get the same thing. Now, if you don't care about hacking it and saving your coin, you could just go ahead and pick up the pattern. That's it, 3132. But once again, that pattern is 3132. Let's move over to the next pattern. So let me back up one, because you could use Simplicity 9757, but you could also use an apron pattern, which most people probably don't have this pattern, but it's a new pattern that came out not too long ago. Simplicity 3125, that knit top you could use and still pair it with 8583, which is the skirt. Just wanted to let you know that as well. But let's go ahead and get over to the next pattern, Simplicity 3133. So Simplicity 3133 is a Mrs. Halter dress and two lengths. It's a halter style dress with bias cut. It pulls over the head, has a keyhole detail in the front, and elastic at the back of the dress. Now, view A and view B have decorative bows as well. It is an easy to sew pattern. In terms of sizing, it's two pattern envelopes, 8 to 16 on the first one and 18 to 26 on the second pattern envelope. Let's talk fabrics and notions. So in terms of fabric, you can use crepe back satin or any type of silky type fabric. You will need some lining fabric and lightweight fusible interfacing. In regards to the notions, the only thing you're going to need is elastic. So this pattern, write it down. If you have not seen my videos about elastic only pattern, this pattern needs to go in that video. Elastic only. Now, I am going to actually link to those two, I think it's two videos. I'm going to link to both of those videos in the description box below. Open it up so you can see any of the videos that I mentioned reference to. It will be in the description box below. You're welcome. All right, getting back into this pattern. This is an elastic only pattern. Once again, this is 3133. Moving over to the next pattern, it's Simplicity 3134. This is a Mrs. Ruffle button front top, which I like. To be honest with you, it is a loose fitting top. It has button front opening, shaped hem and ruffle details. View A top is sleeveless. View B top has long sleeves, and then view C top has short puff sleeves, okay, which y'all know I'm here for the puff sleeves. This is an average to sew pattern. In terms of sizing, there's two pattern envelopes, 6 to 14 on the first one and 16 to 24 on the second pattern envelope. In regards to the fabrics and notions, let's talk fabrics first. You can use chambray, linen blend, or poplin, just to name a few. You will need some lightweight fusible interfacing. And then in regards to the notions for all views, you're going to need 6 half-inch buttons for view A or view C, and then view B, because it's longer and you're going to need to add that to the cuffs of your sleeves, you need 8. All right. So I like this pattern, and this pattern doesn't really necessarily remind me of another pattern whatsoever. This is one that I might be picking up. Now, I know I have not shared with you which ones I'm going to pick up, but I'm going to put it up on the screen. Okay, which ones I'm going to be picking up and which ones I will not be picking up. All right. But moving over, well, you know what? Instead of doing that, because that's a lot more work, let's go back just a second, just to tell you which patterns that I'm going to be picking up. 3128 will be a pattern that I am going to be picking up. 3129, it's up in the air on that one. 3130, that's a no for me. 3131 is a possibility. 3132, it's a no for me. 3133, which is the pattern that I just told you about, it's up in the air on that one. I'm not 100% sold on that one. 3134 is a yes for me and locked. It's a yes for me and it's a lock. All right, so moving over to 3135. This one is a wrap top with sleeves variation. Now, this pattern does remind me of a pattern, but it's an older pattern, but we will get there. Let's go ahead and get into the details of this pattern. So this pattern is a wrap top, close fitting through the bust. It has collar, side tie closure, and inside ribbon ties. Now, view A and view B have puff sleeves, and then view C have your long bishop sleeves. This is an average to sew pattern. In terms of sizings, there's 2 pattern envelopes. It's 8 to 16 on the first one and 18 to 26 on the second pattern envelope. Let's talk fabrics and notions. So in terms of fabric, you could use chambray, linen blends, poplin, sateen, just to name a few. You need some lightweight fusible interfacing. And then in terms of the notions, you will need some ribbons. And then you will also need 8 buttons. Okay. And those buttons need to be 5/8 of an inch buttons. All right. Now, I did mention that this does remind me of a pattern, and that pattern is Simplicity 8791. Now, this pattern is super old and may be very hard to find unless you go to eBay, Etsy, and on Amazon. All right. So with that being said, how can you achieve this if you have this pattern or New Look 65, 61? It's a wrap top. You will need to add a collar to it and then add some puff sleeves. But how you can achieve the same pattern is using Simplicity 8791. I would say like use either the puff sleeves or you see the long sleeve with the cuff, right? And then take that round collar and make it a stand-up collar, just like you see in the photos, all right? But this one is possibly on my fence. I'm on the fence with this one, but it's 3135. Let's go ahead and move over to the next pattern. Oh, one other thing. For the sleeves, you can use New Look 6698 for that puff sleeves. I have an entire video on that pattern, New Look 6698. Actually, you could kind of use the collar for that too. Yeah, you could hack and use both of those patterns. So let's go ahead and move over to the next one, 3136. So 3136 is a missus and woman's button-up shirt. This is like your basic button-up shirt. So it's a loose fitting shirt. It has button front placket, long sleeves with button cuffs, and a continuous lap opening. Now, view A has front patch pockets and a shaped hem, and then view B has front tucks. This is an average to sew pattern. In terms of sizing, it's 2 pattern envelopes, 10 to 18 on the first one and 20W to 28W on the second pattern envelope. Let's talk fabrics and notions. So in terms of fabric, chambray, cotton blends, cotton shirting, just to name a few. You will need some lightweight fusible interfacing. And the only notion that you're going to need is 10 half-inch buttons for either view that you choose. Now, I did mention that this pattern does remind me of a pattern, and it's very closely related to McCall's 2104, which happens to be Raven from Raven Marine's pattern. I have not gotten to Raven's pattern yet, but it's been on my list since it dropped last year. All right. But once again, that pattern is 3136. Let's go ahead and move over to the next pattern. Next up is 3137, and this is the Mrs. Pleated Shorts pattern and pants and 2 lengths. Now, this pattern is just basically shorts or pants. It have a faced waist, like a waist facing, front pleats, side front pockets, and a fly zipper closure, fly front. It is an average to sew pattern. In terms of sizing, it's 2 pattern envelopes, 4 to 12 on the first one, and then 14 to 22 on the second pattern envelope. In terms of sizing, you could use linen, rayon twill, lightweight, cottons, just to name a few. You will need some lightweight fusible interfacing, and the only notion you're going to need is a 9-inch zipper. Now, on the back of the envelope, it says a 9-inch invisible zipper, but baby, I'm here to tell you, you cannot use an invisible zipper when you're doing a fly front. So I'm just letting you know now that that's a mistake on the back of the pattern envelope. Do not use an invisible zipper when you see a fly front. Fly front zippers need to be used with an all-purpose or exposed zipper. You heard it from me. You're welcome. Let's go ahead and talk about the next. So in regards to this pattern does remind me of another pattern. So this pattern was reissued. So it closely resembles McCall 7726, which is also McCall's 8168. So they're the same pattern, okay? Now, the only difference is this pattern doesn't have like a paper bag waist, but I still like it, okay? So I will be picking up this pattern, 3137. Let's go ahead and move over to the next pattern. Next up is 3138, which is a Mrs. Godette skirt in 2 lengths. Now, this pattern is an easy to sew Godette skirt. It has shaped waistband, baby hem, invisible zipper closure, and length variation. Now, view A is one of the views that has contrast on it, and I like that for sure. Now, let's go ahead and talk about this pattern sizes. So it's 2 pattern envelopes, 8 to 16 and 18 to 26 on the second pattern envelope. Let's talk fabrics and notions. So in terms of fabrics first, you could use challis, crepe, charmeuse, just to name a few. You will need some lightweight fusible interfacing, and the only notion you're gonna need is 1 7-inch zipper, which happens to be invisible, all right? Now this pattern doesn't necessarily remind me of another pattern, but I have done this pattern before, and I have a sew along for this pattern that actually features a Godette, and it is New Look 6702. Now, here's the thing. I made the pattern, took photos look great. However, that thing was so tight, I gave it away, but it was so cute, and I have not been able to find this fabric a second time, so it is what it is, all right? Once again, this pattern is 3138, but I also want to say, like, you can save your coins and hack this pattern. You could use a basic skirt pattern like Simplicity 2314, draw some lines, like draw a triangle line, right? To where you have a triangle at the bottom and, you know, a split on both sides. Add seam allowance where you split it. So if you cut a line this way, you need to add seam allowance right here. If you cut it the opposite direction, you need to add some seam allowance right here as well. So you have to make sure wherever your pieces are going to meet up, you add seam allowance to both pattern pieces, okay? I can show you how to do that in an upcoming video. I'm not going to show it right now, but I can share with you how you would add seam allowance when you are hacking a pattern, all right? But that would be an easy hack if you use a pattern similar to like Simplicity 2314. You could achieve the same look and save you some coins, all right? Let's go ahead and get over to the next pattern. Next up is 3139. It is a Mrs. pleated skirt in 2 length and a belt. So it's a high-waisted pleated skirt. It has side seam pockets, invisible zipper closure, and length variation. Now, view C has a belt with that skirt. It is an average to sew pattern. In terms of pattern sizing, it's 2 pattern envelopes, 6 to 14 on the first one, and 16 to 24 on the second pattern envelope. Let's talk fabrics and notions. So in terms of fabrics, you can use cotton blends, linen, or novelty fabrics if you choose to, or even poplin. You will need some lightweight fusible interfacing. In terms of notions, you will need a 9-inch invisible zipper for all views. And then only on view C, you will need a 1-inch slide buckle in order to do the belt. Once again, this pattern is $31.39. Moving over to the next pattern, and it's a Mimi G pattern, and it's $31.40. So $31.40 is a Mrs. Knit top and skirt pattern by the Queen Mimi G. So the pattern features an asymmetrical knit top. It has gathers on the shoulder neckline and 3/4 sleeves for the sleeves, okay? So the skirt is a pull-on mermaid style skirt that has elastic waistband. It is an easy to sew. In terms of sizing, it's 8 to 16 on the first pattern and 18 to 26 on the second pattern envelope. In terms of fabric and notions, fabric first, you're going to need some form of knit, whether that's bamboo knit, ponte knit, ITY jersey knit, just to name a few. You will need some knit fusible interfacing, okay? I can't stress that enough. Knit fusible interfacing. Now, when it comes to notion, you will need some clear elastic for view A because view A is really a no notion pattern. Yes, I said it, no notion pattern, but you will need to stabilize the shoulder seam because it's knit, and that's by way of using clear elastic. View B, you will also need some elastic for that skirt. Now, this is a mermaid style skirt. You can find a mermaid skirt and knit if you choose to. Bottom line. However, I will be picking up this pattern because I think it's cute. But once again, it's $31.40. Let's go ahead and move over to the next pattern. Next up is $31.41. And as well as it looked like a basic top and some pants, that's basically what it is. Let's go ahead and talk about this Mrs. Scallop top, shorts, and pant pattern. So this is a fitted top. It has a scallop hem and short sleeves or sleeveless option. The shorts and the pants also have a scallop waist. All views have piping, purchase piping, and invisible zipper closure as well. This is an average to sew pattern. In terms of sizing, there's 2 pattern envelopes, 8 to 16, and then 18 to 26 on the second pattern envelope. Let's talk fabrics and notions. So in terms of fabrics for this one, you can use cotton blends, crepe, poplin, sateen, just to name a few. You will also need some lightweight fusible interfacing. In terms of notions, for all views, you're going to need 12-inch zippers, okay? 12-inch invisible zippers, all right? Now, for view A or B, you're going to need a 7-inch zipper, okay, instead of your regular 12. For view C or D, you will need the zipper, but you will also need some piping as well, all right? So, this pattern doesn't necessarily remind me of another pattern, but it's basic top with some scallop. You can make the scallops yourself. Like literally, you can use a basic top pattern and a 2-piece pant pattern and then just make you some scallop hem. And by the way, my girl Mo from Sketch So Mo, she did a new look pattern where she made some scallops at the hem. I'm gonna tag her here so she's able. So you're able to go to her channel and see that. She used New Look. I don't remember the number, but it was last year doing my Hot Girl Summer for New Look patterns last year. So you could go there and see how to make your own scallop hem if you do not want to purchase this pattern or if you do not want to hack it yourself. All right. So once again, that pattern is $31.41. Let's go ahead and move over to the next pattern, $31.42. So $31.42 is a Mrs. and Women's blazer and skirt pattern. Yes, I said skirt, not skirt. All right, so it's a loose fitting unlined blazer. It has notch collar, patch pockets, and a 2-piece sleeve. It also features a back vent and length variations. Now, the skirt is a fitted asymmetrical front skirt that has back waist darts, invisible side zipper, and length variations. Now, this is an average to sew pattern. In terms of sizing, there's 2 pattern envelopes. The first one is 10 to 18, and the second pattern envelope is 20 to 28. Let's talk fabrics and notions for this one. I'm just going to say that you could use pretty much any type of woven fabric, whether that's gabardine, stretch woven, ponte twill, just to name a few. You will need some lining for view C, D, which is the skirt. You will also need some lightweight fusible interfacing. And then in terms of notions for the jacket, which is view A or B, you will need 2 half-inch buttons only for that pattern, okay? For the skirt, view CD, you will need a 7-inch invisible zipper. That's it, all right? Now, this pattern definitely reminds me of an old school pattern. I don't even remember when this pattern came out, but it's very similar to Butterick 6517. The blazer is very similar to that pattern for sure. And the reason why is because it just seems like it is very similar. It can be also very similar to my TNT. If you missed that video, I'll put it up here so you're able to see it. My TNT tried and true pattern. New look 6035. And yes, I know, Rochelle, could you please put that pattern to rest? I can't, but I can stop telling you just for this video, okay? But it is similar to that pattern as well in terms of the blazer. Now, in terms of the skirt, one pattern that I will give you that's, if you just want to make a skirt and you don't want to purchase this pattern, is Simplicity 1370. It is a good skirt pattern. You're welcome. Your girl got you. All right. Let's go ahead and move over to the next pattern. Next up is 3143, and this is Mrs. Pajamas. So just to kind of not get into a whole bunch of pajama patterns or loungewear patterns, I'm going to say this one because it is an adult pattern, but it is a comfy pajama set pattern, which includes the robe, the shorts, and the pants. The robe has collar, drop shoulders, ties, yoke, and a back box pleat. And then you have the pull-on shorts and pants that have elastic waist and side seam pockets, which speak in my language for sure. This pattern is an average to sew pattern. In terms of sizing, it's one pattern envelope, extra small to extra, extra large. In regards to the fabric and notions, in terms of fabric first, challis, crepe, or lawn, just to name a few, you will need lightweight fusible interfacing. And then in terms of the notions, you're going to need some twill tape when you're doing the robe. And then view BC, which is the shorts and the pants, you will need some elastic. Okay. So once again, this pattern is 3143. Moving over from 3143, we're skipping all the way to 3150 because every pattern in between is either babies, girls, costume patterns, or some type of accessory home decor patterns. And I did mention I'm not going to be sharing that. So let's go ahead and talk about 3150. 3150 is a 1940s Mrs. jacket, bra, and skirt pattern. Now, this is a vintage pattern. And right now on simplicity.com website, vintage patterns are on sale. This pattern is also on sale, but you will not see it on the website as a sale. You would have to add it to the cart, and I'm going to show you how you do that. I'm just going to click on paper pattern and click on 14 to 22 just to see if it's actually going to put it in the cart at $4.99. And guess what, y'all? It puts it in the cart as $4.99 even if it does not show it on the website. All right. But let's go ahead and get into the description of this one. I'm not going to tell a lot because this is a repurposed, reproduction vintage patterns from the 1940s. So basically, it's just slim shorts with fitted darts at the back, side closure, side entrance pocket. I don't understand what that means. But just to give you my own, because I like that better when dealing with vintage patterns, the view 1, which is the button down, that reminds me of Simplicity 8891. I'm going to put it up here so you're able to see that. View 1, 2, which is like the bralette. It reminds me of a pattern that I did before that I actually filmed a complete sew along for all the views on the pattern, and I did not drop it because I realized that the pattern was out of print after I did all that filming. So that pattern is Butterick 6030. Love the pattern. If you can get that pattern, it is a good wardrobe builder. Okay. Now let's talk about these shorts. These shorts, view 1, 2. These shorts remind me of a Vogue pattern. And I believe that Vogue pattern, and yes, I'm saying believe because sometimes I can be wrong. I think that Vogue pattern is Vogue 9108 or 9008, something like that. I'll put it up on the screen so you're able to see that. But yes, this pattern does remind me of several different patterns that you can use to achieve the same result and save you some coins. Okay, let's go ahead and move over to the next pattern. Next one is 3151, and this is a 1950 Mrs. one-piece bathing suit and skirt. Okay, now this one doesn't remind me necessarily of anything. It's just basically a one-piece bathing suit and skirt pattern. It's an easy to sew pattern. And then this pattern comes in 2 pattern envelopes, 8-16 and 18-26 on the second pattern envelope. And with vintage patterns, you can pretty much use any type of woven fabric, okay? That's all I'm gonna say about these vintage patterns. Once again, it's $4.99 right now on the website. And that vintage sale ends on Thursday, which happens to be the 12th. All right. So let's go ahead and move over to the next one, 3152. So 3152 is a 1950s Mrs. halter and strapless bodice pattern. It is an easy to sew pattern. It comes in 2 pattern envelopes, 6-14 and 16-24 on the second pattern envelope. This one, I mean, it's reissued. What could I say? Now, this pattern doesn't remind me of a previous pattern that I have in my stash, but if you know, it's a reproduction. So there has been a pattern that dropped before it. All right. But once again, that's 3152. Next up is 3153. It is a 1960s Mrs. One-Piece Jiff dress. And Jiff dress happens to be labeled as easy to sew. So with this one, it is a simple to sew dress with lower round collar and has a gathered skirt. It has 2 pattern envelopes, 6-14 on the first one and 16-24 on the second pattern envelope. For this one, you can use many different woven fabrics if you choose so for this one. But once again, it's 3153. And the last pattern I'm going to share, but not necessarily share, is 3154. And the reason why I'm sharing this one is a 1 pattern piece bag. Come closer. 1 pattern piece bag. Yeah, I said that right. All right. Now this one right here is an easy line bag that's created with 1 main pattern piece. Okay. So it's basically a semicircular oversized clutch zip closure and has purchase tassel asset. Purchase tassel. Okay. So you have different views on this one. Love it, like it, whatever you want to call it. So this one is a one size fit all, just to give you that. And then in terms of the fabrics that you can use, I'm just going to say any type of woven fabrics of your choosing. All right. Well, those are all 20 patterns that just dropped with Simplicity for their Simplicity Summer pattern. If I had to rate this collection, it's all right. It's all right. For me, it's nothing where it's like, ooh, I got to buy this pattern and that pattern and that pattern. I will assess these patterns again with fresh eyes in a day or two when a new sale happens for these patterns. And then I'll share with you what I picked up. Yeah, that's what I'll do. All right, well, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. If this video was educational, inspiring, and fun, please hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already, because it's free. Comment in the comment section below and let me know which patterns you found to be really interesting and that you will pick up. And y'all know what to do. Share this video with a sewing bestie who you think needs to watch this video. Yep, I think everyone needs to watch it to see what these patterns are looking like and how you can save your coins. All right. Well, one thing I have to tell you, do not forget to miss me. Do not miss me, or don't forget to come in, chill with me, I should say. Friday, which is Friday the 13th. I will be live for about a good hour not to exceed an hour and a half, unlike last Friday when we was on there for 3 hours, okay? But this one, I will be by myself this Friday. That's June the 13th for about an hour, not to exceed an hour and a half, because your girl got some things to do that night too, all right? Well, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. Until next time, keep sewing.
It's been a long time and I miss this feeling. It feels like freedom.